Hi, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. I'm Reverend MeeLing, been known by a few names: Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, Kuan Yin, Kalima, Tiamat, few other names, depending where I knew you from. Does depend. That does have to do with certain aspects, which I would guesstimate probably threw a couple techie guys for a loop. Well, first few times in certain regards. So yeah, hi, how are you? Been here for a while. Just since my birth, that's all. And so, if you don't get that reference point, well, I guess maybe didn't know you that way. So, that being said, that would probably make sense to some people, whether or not they're into techie stuff, and more of a reference in regards to that whole I've walked on top of water a few times, well before I videotaped on the official YouTube channel thing. Well before then. And I'm talking not just in Tyler, Texas, where there was that water and that bathtub that I flipped over. I'm talking well before then, well before ever going to Corpus Christi area and doing that, or South Padre Island, or scuba diving, obviously, when referencing those points, not forgetting, before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, did that in New Jersey, off the Atlantic coastline as a child. But, hey, whatever. I mean, Like, for example, my biological mother had told me, why don't you go swimming in that area at the back corner of the property in New Jersey? Now, for those who have tried to say my biological mother didn't hate me, well, pun intended on that. So the house in New Jersey at that time was well water. And the well had an issue. And so the water that was told for me to go swim in was as red as my hair. Does anybody know what that would mean? That would mean that was pure iron. Pure iron in that water. That's why it was red. It wasn't algae. It wasn't anything other than iron. I would guesstimate my biological mother, Anna, had discussed a few times about the red water that was in the back of the property. She may or may not have acknowledged that she had me go swim in there. That being said, it's just iron water, right? I mean, she did go to Rutgers University, get her degree in science, and then after going swimming, I was told, get inside, gotta get ready to go to church. And Old Tenet Presbyterian Church had sulfur water. You can tell it's sulfur water because of the smell at that time in the 1980s and 1990s. That's all. Anybody know what happens when you mix iron and sulfur together? I'm sure there are scientists who know. I know that there are YouTube channels that show what happens. And so, I'm breathing, still alive, that whole thing. I'm not dead, obviously. And so today is the 24th of June, 2020. That's all. It's the big deal. Anyway, whoop-de-doo. At least that's the way I feel and have felt for quite some time. I'm really tired of feeling this way. And see, I've done everything I can to find a silver lining in various ways. And, you know, life, right? And so, as I was murmuring to myself because of certain things just not working correctly for whatever excuse, I remembered there were a few discussions I've had over the years, specifically in 2010, 2011, 2012, and just before, no longer being a part of a specific community in 2013. And these were all in person. None of these were online. None of these were phone calls. These were all in person, where I had different people that were into alien studies or whatever, or ufology or something, try to tell me that, and there were those who weren't into ufology in a more scientific study. They were just into, the belief that there's a possibility or a disbelief in the possibility of alien life forms. And they tried to tell me, though I had this particular portion of a discussion multiple times with multiple people as well before, in reference to those years I listed, of people trying to tell me that they didn't believe that there were aliens in the universe. And I looked at them and I was like, so are you, for example, Christine from the Jade Wolf Coven tried to tell me that she thought that human beings were the smartest individuals throughout the galaxy. I looked at her and I told her, no. No, not at all. No. Not in any way, shape, or form. If you, Christine, think that you are more intelligent than any life form in the galaxy, I can tell you there are life forms in the galaxy that are not considered intelligent by your standards, but are far more intellectual than you would ever be able to process. And they would look at someone like you in absolute disgust because of your arrogance to think that you're better by a lot. And so, in reference to the discussions specifically from 2011, 2012, and earlier parts of 2013, though some discussions in 2010, just after I had landed and surfaced after scuba diving, in the Matthias Abyss area, that's all. People try to tell me that they actually thought they knew that there was no way to prove that there were aliens. I looked at those people and I was like, how could you say that if you don't believe that there's a way to prove that? Then if there's proof, are you not going to believe the proof? Like if the facts are brought forward to you, are you still going to live in denial? I was told by some of them the facts would have to be indisputable. So I asked, what do you consider indisputable facts? And some of those individuals said, well, pictures that are undoctored. Check. Okay, go ahead. Because, my pictures that I took when scuba diving in the Matthias Abyss after landing at the bottom there, I can't doctor those. Not that I could even back then. And the same thing goes for the pictures when scuba diving and landing at the bottom of the ocean in the Atlantic area of the ocean, not the Abyss area, but before then, off of the Boca Raton coastline, and just swimming over, forming volcanoes. That's all underwater. And then the scuba dive prior to that of landing in the deeper section of the Gulf of Mexico. Go ahead, tell me. What else would be considered indisputable facts that you'd have to... Well, in some of those individuals' references, you'd have to be able to explain certain things. Joke. Okay, well, I've written a few books, I've discussed a few things a few different times, but go ahead in my thoughts at that point, not in reference to the book, however, in reference to different journal blog entries that I had written, but go ahead. Check. And then what was the other one? Oh, they'd have to be alive. Yeah, I literally actually did that in front of them. Literally did the breathing counts, right? I was told yes. What else do you need for indisputable facts? And one person out of the majority of those different discussions had said, well, you'd have to be able to explain things. Do you mean outside of words, or how? Yeah, well, with detailed words. At that time, I hadn't written any books, like Failsafe, The Kennedy Curse Fused with Science Fiction Fantasy. That is a fiction story. Ish. It was a joke that I had wrote. Who said God doesn't have a sense of humor? Anyway, first. Anyway, so I had discussed this with different individuals, and a particular set of females tried to tell me that they knew that there was no way to prove whatsoever, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there was alien life form. And I looked at them and I asked, what do you consider alien life form then? Because to you, another human being is difficult for you to understand and quite alien. But are you meaning in reference to things that are not human in that regard? Because if you look at the ocean, there's quite a few life forms in the ocean that are quite foreign to you and quite alien that you will never fully understand. There are plenty of scientific anomalies that are actually on land that, could be considered alien. Like what? Oh, like the duckbill platypus. That's a pretty good example. No, that's just, a weird thing. Oh, okay. Continue on. Tell me more about what you think is considered alien life form, other than those examples. And so they had referred to apparently there are movies called Alien, and they referred to that. And I was shown a picture and I was like, oh, that one's so cute compared to what's out there. But go ahead, what else do you got? And then they showed me, what was it, Predator, the pictures from that. It's like, aww. There are scarier things than that in the ocean. That makes space look like a little fluffy. That's just precious to think that that's considered scary. Okay, give me another one. Give me another one. And so there were different ones that they showed me. What was it? Oh, the ET one. I looked at that and I was like, that's the equivalent of a duckbill platypus in that regard, ish. As just far as looks, I mean, it's cute, but okay, come on. Give me something that you consider alien and scary. Come on, like, come on now. Let's go. And so then a couple males came over and they showed me a few things, and I'm just, that's it? That's what you consider that's what you consider as you need proof like that? And each of them in that particular discussion were like, yes. And I looked at them, I said, do you understand those are the nice ones? I mean, those are the snuggle, so cute. Just, who's a little cutie patootie? Just a little, oh, look at your little cheeks. Or comparatively, I mean, compared to what I mean, seriously, the pictures that I saw for the movie thing of the alien thing, they're in the ocean. Please, it's like there are some that are just they're just as cute. I mean, I don't know what the premise is of the movie. I'm just looking at the little cuties. And so, I mean, when you look at like the alien one, it kind of looks like a, what is it, a scuttlefish for like the head. And then like the body is just, just like a skeleton or whatever. Yeah, okay, that's not really that scary, realistically, especially compared to what's actually in the ocean. And then take into consideration what's in the ocean is so cute compared to what's in space. By a lot, by so much. I've actually had this discussion since I was a child in reference to why is it that you are so concerned about going out into space when you do not know what is in the ocean? And what is in the ocean, I mean, could technically prepare you for what's in space. I mean, what you know is space and the galaxy is very vast and ongoing. You don't even know what's in the ocean. And you want to go see what's in space. And I actually had people in New Jersey who told me that they were scared of what was in the ocean, but they wanted to see what was in space. That was very backwards to me. That to me was one of those, why would you want to see what's in space? Thinking that that is going to be less scary than what's in the ocean. I don't know why you would think that's a good idea. Just gonna throw out there, you might want to get accustomed to what's in the ocean before you want to look into space, because the scariest stuff in the ocean makes the like cutest stuff in space look cute. Take that in consideration. No, okay, I'll just go play, my G.I. Joes. Fine. What do I know? Let's go play with that. So, yeah. So, especially in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, specifically after having gone scuba diving, I had many discussions with different people because in the lifestyles that I was in more heavily, you talk about all sorts of things, which to me was odd because politics was just too taboo in certain regards. Same thing with religion. And it was one of those, really? That's considered taboo with what you're wearing? Okay. And with what you just did? But religion and politics is considered taboo. That's a little backwards. My opinion, but what does my opinion matter, I guess, according to certain individuals. And so, yeah, and then after 2011, specifically towards the end of 2011 into 2012 and the beginning of 2013 before winding up in Washington State, having that discussion with people of, well, what do you know? I mean, aliens, realistically, they are going to be so awesome to meet. Well, yes and no. Depends which ones you meet. Because if you meet certain ones, yeah, some of those, just with how you're speaking to me, I know what they would do to you if you so much as looked at them the way you just looked at me. But you want to meet those guys. You want to meet those guys? Oh, okay. I don't know. I think that you should probably reevaluate that. I think so. I think so. I think that you should probably take a step back and kind of get yourself in check before you. And that was while I was dealing with the threats that I was dealing with online. And because I know about human body stuff, it's one of those, yeah, that's kind of scary, just throwing that out there, but nobody wanted to believe me those times. And so, I've had a few discussions with a few people that just, I have not been able to understand. I mean, for example, when scuba diving, and in the specific point of when scuba diving in the Matthias Abyss area and surfacing, there is a picture that I took that has a bright yellow hose that looks like a hose, but it's not. It's not my cavern gear because I hadn't gone cavern. I hadn't even registered for my cavern certification yet, for the classes to take the class and then get certified. That didn't occur until after I returned to Texas from scuba diving in Florida. So just for that clarification, that was not my octopus, though that tentacle, well, it's type of, and I mean, it listened to me. For whatever that's worth. I don't know what's wrong with other individuals, but that is what it is. So, But I did tell some people about certain aspects in reference to, well, different things in reference to both the ocean and in space. And I was simply told that they thought I didn't know what I was talking about. I mean, what do I know? So then there was that visit in reference to Irving apartment and that whole really bright lights thing. Really, really bright lights. And shown a few things. However, why discuss it? I mean, I did put it in writing. That is one of the few things that I put in writing that I never discussed. Very, very few things. Mainly because, well, it was nobody's business but mine until I made it other people's business. In reference to what was discussed. Because at that time, who would have believed me anyway, right? I mean, how many people didn't believe what was going on in reference to my daughter and my son? How many people didn't believe about my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000? And how many people didn't believe where I landed in the ocean and surfaced them? A few. So, in that regard, and I was never asked any questions by any government officials. I mean, I kind of figured, if that was important to the United States government, I'd have been asked. I'd have been questioned. Then again, same thing in reference to scuba diving and landing where I did. Kind of figured I'd be asked questions, in person. Because what I have seen, as far as, news and stuff like that, people are questioned in a court of law. I mean, I did get questions, just not necessarily the way I thought that went. And so, it was a big deal. That's the way I viewed it because of the minuteness in reference to how other things were going at the time. I mean, you can only be passed over so many times before it becomes, what does it matter? Why bother? Realistically, who cares? I mean, I do, but, whatever. I'm just me. What do you do? At least that's what I've told. And so, where others that I've seen get quite a bit of attention in a positive way, in a good way. I don't know what that's like. What is that like? What is that like when people actually believe you without any hesitation? What is that like to not be constantly told you don't know what you're talking about when you actually do? What is that like? I don't know. I mean, realistically. And then, in a lot of ways. So, I've had different discussions in which people tried to tell me they thought that they knew more about alien life forms that didn't have any actual knowledge whatsoever. I had discussions with people who thought they knew about scuba diving and the ocean, yet were not marine biologists and not scuba divers. They didn't have experience in the Coast Guard or the Marine Corps or the Navy, which that in itself was infuriating because it was just one of those, so you've never actually been in the ocean. Well, one particular female. Well, I went to the beach. That doesn't count. that, that, that does not count as scuba diving. Not being rude, just stating a fact. Well, going to the beach and, did you at least go swimming? Ew, no, 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 no. I just went and like tanned on the beach. So you didn't go in the ocean? No, the ocean? Ew. Why would you think that you could discuss scuba diving with me? Or the ocean? And never have been scuba diving. Well, I've seen pictures. Whoop-de-doo. Do you know any scuba divers that explained anything to you? Well, I know this guy, and this guy went scuba diving here, but he didn't really talk about it. So you know nothing about scuba diving. Well, I know that you like wear stuff. That's literally the words that I was told. I I I just stood there and listened to her as she continued to tell me the garbage that was spewing out of her mouth. And I grew up in New Jersey. I know. I know what heaps of trash look like, and she definitely. If I could put into a visualization of the words that she was discussing, just think of a landfill, and that's pretty much what she looked like as she was speaking, just more and more. And I was just, okay. Though I would guesstimate there were some people that when I would discuss things, but actually knew what I was discussing about, thought that initially, and no, I actually knew what I was discussing. Just saying. I have this thing. I deal with headaches and migraines after my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. If I speak and push through the pain that I'm in, I cannot tell a lie to begin with. So if I'm actually pushing through the pain to actually explain something, that pretty much, I don't know how people can deny that at that point. I mean, I'm just saying. It has been a nuisance, and I know that there are people who very much understand that. Very much do. However, in that reference point of both in space as well as in the ocean, isn't it interesting that it's called space, SPACE, and then scuba is SCUBA. There's 5 letters in each. Both start with an S. Isn't that a weird coinky dink for those who are into words and stuff like that? Nonetheless, there were several individuals who tried to tell me that they genuinely could, no matter what. But then they gave me a list of things that, if it were to be considered believable, they would need those things. So at this point, how many pictures have I taken? Between just in scuba diving, not forgetting other things. And then how much studying did I do? I mean, it's only 26 scuba certifications, that's all. And that's it, right? And then, you know, landed and surfaced. And I know I'm bad with math. I don't deny that. Never have. After my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000. But I was in college algebra with trigonometry and calculus before my head injury. So, while I understand that there are some people who don't necessarily, at least at those times, want to believe, yes, there are alien life forms in the galaxy. And yes, you really should get more accustomed to what is actually in the ocean, because if you think that if you think that it'd be really cool to meet an alien from the galaxy, it is, depending on which ones you meet. Depending on. But I can guarantee you, there are some alien life forms out in space that make the Hollywood video movie stuff just look fluffy. And it's not in any offense towards Hollywood at all. It's not in any. It's just, you know, they look so cute from the pictures that I've seen. They look like little babies. Just, aww. I mean, but then again, I find the anglerfish to be cute. It's just, and so you should probably take that into consideration to what I find cute. And in that reference, there are some absolutely adorable little aliens out there, which is different than cute. Because, you know, cute is cute. And then there's so, you know, maybe that should be taken into consideration. Anyway, you guys have a good one. Comment, like, share, and subscribe to my official channel.